What's up, everybody? This is John with Archer Film. Thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff, commenting. So, happy October, everybody. This is my favorite month of the year. It's Halloween time. It is fall. It's horror time. I love horror movies. This is my favorite time of year, specifically for horror. I've been watching this franchise for quite some time. I hadn't seen a single movie until last night, but I've been following along because it's fascinating to me. And that is Damien Leone's low-budget, ultra-gory slasher movie, Terrifier. Now, with Part 3 hitting theaters this weekend and already grossing over its budget, I think the budget was 2.5, it grossed 2.6, and it's just now Friday. I am going to dive into this film. So, there are going to be spoilers. Now, here's the thing. I'm a massive horror fan, as you guys may know. I try to see everything. When it comes to the subgenre of horror slasher flicks, the gorier, the better. Now, when it comes to that sort of subgenre, I like ones that are very creative and interesting, funny, whatever it is that is the unique take. Like, just gore for the sake of it is just kind of boring to me. So the first Terrifier, when I had seen little bits of it and heard about it, so it just looked very cheap to me. And, you know, the killer clown thing had been done to death, especially when this movie came out. You had it, you had that other Rob Zombie movie. You also had like various really cheap John Wayne Gacy movies. So like I had seen the killer clown thing to death, and I'm just not that into it. But as they started making more of these and the success of them and like the lore of like how gruesome and gory they were, it started to catch my eye. Now, I prefer like elevated horror movies, but occasionally a really wicked horror movie catches my eye that's just really fun, like the most recent Evil Dead Rise. It was just fun and gruesome and cool and just had some great gory moments. A really good entry into that catalog if you haven't seen it. So I also have a deep respect for filmmakers who have launched their own careers, especially in the horror space. It seems to be the one genre where you can launch a career out of. And as far as other filmmakers who have sort of launched their own careers, there are a ton. And, you know, Damien Leone making Terrifier, the original, for $50K and launching a franchise that just did $3 million is very impressive to me. I love that. So while like many modern self-made filmmakers have launched their careers with their expertise in CGI, like Parker Finn in the incredibly boring Smile movie, if you haven't seen the short, like it literally is almost all CGI, and that's what it's leading up to. And good for Parker Finn. He's got Smile 2 coming out. He's made a grip of money on something that I think is such a mediocre concept. But that's the thing. You're focusing on CGI and not really the story, and it's kind of like, eh. Same with kind of Fede Alvarez's first movie, Attack. That short film launched his career. He got to do the Evil Dead remake, but he's a really talented, creative, visual filmmaker. He just did Alien Romulus. Yeah, Alien Romulus, which I loved. So it has its flaws. If you haven't seen my review of that, watch it. But creatively, he's a really good filmmaker. But Terrifier and its filmmaker, Damien Leone, are more, in my opinion, like Peter Jackson and his first film, Bad Taste, where he shot it all down in New Zealand. He did it all himself, and including the practical special effects. He built the aliens, which are these big, fat, disgusting things. And there's a great scene where, you know, you got to see it. If you've not seen Peter Jackson's early movies like Dead Alive and Bad Taste, you got to watch them. Meet the Feebles. I have them all on VHS, ironically. But they're incredible, and they're funny, and they're ultra gory. And it just, you know, the practical effects that he used in his early movies, Peter Jackson, you see why when he eventually does Lord of the Rings and he combines all the different styles of effects, why it's so effective. But, okay, back to Damien Leone. So he has said that he wanted to make a film to showcase his specialty, which is gore effects. He's a special effects guy. That's what he does. That's what he was kind of launching his career as. And, he does just that. Like, all the gore in Terrifier is realistic looking for the most part, and the murders are bloody and gruesome and mostly original. Like, when it takes, this is why I've always liked this genre. Like, it takes, a lot of creativity to come up with unique deaths, because we've seen them all in movies. So the more unique and interesting you can make, like, a murder or kill, it just delights me. There's something removed from it's not real, and I know that. I've worked with special effects in movies. I had special effects in my last couple movies, and it's just fun to mess with dead bodies and blood and stuff. It's always fun. So, that stuff is really good in Terrifier, like the gore and the gruesome murders. But of course, the real star of the movie is Art the Clown. So, it's kind of like a downplayed version of the clown trope character. And it's played like, a murderous mime more than anything, in this great black and white with specks of, red and other stuff on him. And the clown looks disgusting, and, like, it is disgusting. Like, it's not super clean and fun looking like Pennywise, and he doesn't talk. It's interesting to me, like, when you first see him in the pizza place, like, his whole body, he just looks dirty and filthy, almost like just a homeless, crazy person, which I love that aspect. It adds to the overall, like, tone of the film. Kind of like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, the setting and the characters are gross, and, like, side characters are disturbing and disturbed. And a scene which, like, Art smears shit all over a bathroom, it sets the tone really quickly, and I like that tone. I want to feel grossed out and disgusted before even the first big murder happens. And it works. The two female leads are fine, and they service the plot, and they're watchable. And in fact, the only flaw in the movie for me is, like, how thin the characterization is. There's, like, zero depth. And, like, by the time we get to a scene which clearly demarcates the characters' names, the females, like, I was at a loss as to who was named what. There's, like, a phone scene where, the women are texting and talking to each other, and I'm like, I don't know any of these girls' names. I don't know who is who. That is because Art is the star, and the characters really didn't matter. But that is a weakness to me that I hope he fleshes out in the next two films, which I'm going to watch number 2 tonight and 3 as soon as I can. So what helps flesh out such a small budget to me and helps it breathe is the opening. Remember, $50,000. They didn't have a lot of money. They shot in 30 days, which is surprising to me. Like, we shot our first movie in, like, 17 days, like, really fast. Of course, we didn't have as many special effects as Terrifier did. What helps flesh the budget out and help the film breathe a little bit is there's a cool TV interview opening. And it's like we see, like, an old TV being watched, and, an interviewer talking to someone who was, messed up by Art the Clown. And it's cool to see. It's kind of a nice and unique intro, and it kind of separates us from the carnage, because once we get into the carnage, it becomes very claustrophobic, and that's mostly due to the limited, location. We meet the two young women on Halloween as they go to a pizza place. They're drunk. They're trying to eat. They get a flat tire. They need to be picked up, whatever. And it's like that's like 2 of 3 locations. There they meet Art, and that's all the plot I'm going to get into because it's not really important. But as Art begins his slashing terror, each kill and the carnage gets worse and worse. Like, he's vicious and cruel and surprising. And he sort of mocks them the whole time. And we just get a sense that there is no relief or heart in this guy, no empathy whatsoever. And I kind of dug that. It just feels real to me. So for a slasher to be memorable, and I think Leon knows this well, the kills must be unique. And they are. The first big gore set piece is... how should I say, splittingly memorable, and it just makes you cringe as you watch it because you're just like, you just feel it in your gut. And it reminds me kind of the climax of Bad Taste and that one scene in Bone Tomahawk. I loved it when it happened. I was just like, yes, give me more. And then the film kind of descends into their cat and mouse games, in this giant... creepiest warehouse ever that is like an auto place too, with so many locked doors in it. It is absolutely crazy. Obviously, it just serves the plot, and that's fine. It's just them in this dark, crazy place. And just as you start to feel bored of all the running around and like near misses and near hits and hiding and all that stuff, Art does a few unexpected things. And this is where I thought the film got elevated to something more worth talking about, and you see why word of mouth sort of grew. So, and this is a spoiler. If you haven't seen the movie, don't listen, right? But there's a scene where he comes out in a woman's scalp that he has scalped and her breast that he has cut off. And he's naked and he's wearing it. And he's like dancing around and you're like, ugh, I was not expecting that. And that was like a key moment for me. I was like, yeah, this is a messed up movie. That's the kind of thing that I would have really remembered and talked about to other people had I seen this like in the first run in theaters. And so, and hearing Leon talk about it, he wanted to really push the envelope to get people to notice. And at that time, like, this is what you had to do for a little horror movie to stand out. And to me, this is the moment that did that. I guarantee you this is what got people talking because it was just so gruesome and disturbing and awesome, in my opinion. And the other thing I really enjoyed about Art the Clown was there's a moment, so like, you know, he's using all this really grimy homemade torture and murder implements, and they're all fun, and you're like, oh God, I hope he doesn't use that, and he does. But then at the end, again, spoiler, when one of the victims has the upper hand on him, he just pulls out a gun and blasts away, and I was like cracking up, and it surprised me, but I was like, oh, I dig that. Because it surprised me. I've seen so many horror movies, not a lot surprises me, and that surprised me. And then again, the plot is very basic, that's kind of the flaw. The plot is very basic. It's just a highlight for the gore and the murders. The theme, there really is zero theme. It's not as gorgeous as Halloween, and obviously Jamie Lee is an icon for a reason. She can act, and the actors in Terrifier, they're serviceable, but nobody really stands out as like exceptional. And again, the characters don't really call for that either. There's not a lot of suspense, like in Halloween. It's just like, you're just tense the whole time because you know something horrible is about to happen. It's not as artistic as Texas Chainsaw, which I thought was beautifully shot and paced, that felt so real and truly terrifying because of its realism. I kind of liken it more to, Friday the 13th, but not as campy. I always thought the original Friday the 13th, the Sean Cunningham film, is just awful. It is such a terrible, terrible movie. Like, it just doesn't, they created an icon, sure. Arguably, Tom Savini created that icon, and the movie's just not very good. And so it's kind of more similar to that, just not that bad. Like, it just kind of takes that to a new level of just gruesomeness, which I loved. It doesn't have the humor as, say, like Evil Dead or Bad Taste, or Dead Alive, but definitely the ingenuity and the moxie. And that's what I loved about it. Like, especially in today's saturated horror market, it just stood out as this guy, he's made this movie for $50,000. It's a rags to riches sort of success. And it makes me want to see the next two, so I can really root and support this. And now with like the gruesomeness of each one sort of coming out, like as a horror filmmaker, especially in the subgenre of slasher, like you want to be known as the goriest one, the upsetting one, the one that people walked out of. That's what you want to be known for. That means you did your job, and that is awesome to me. And that's what they're saying about the second one, and now the third one as well. So I am completely on board. This Terrifier and the other offshoot films could be the new Halloween staple every year for me, replacing the Saw franchise for a lot of people. Because they got so bloated and silly, and the little spin-off Spiral and the Book of Saw, like whatever those were just absolutely trash. Although I did enjoy Saw 10. That was fun. Like, the last few were awful, but like in like this time of year, it's okay to watch the big horror movies that come out of the, the studios, but oftentimes they're very antiseptic. Like, they just feel sort of cleaned up, and like there's no sex and the violence is palatable or whatever. And if you do see violence, it's just kind of, they're just sort of basic. Like, I guarantee you Smile 2 is just going to be meh, whatever. But I feel like Terrifier 3, that is what horror is all about. That is what Halloween is all about. And I cannot wait to watch them, and I just wish success for this franchise because of that. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.